Hi, everyone, and welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It's great to be back here with you guys, as always. I can't believe how fast the weeks go, but here we are again. And it's time to answer questions about your mind-body experience, or as it fits in my system, of course, the three columns: emotions, doubt, and power. So as always, I usually start with a couple of announcements. We've got a couple things going on that are important to talk about. Amrit, good to see you. She says, OMG, hi. Okay, good to see you. I like the enthusiasm. So in terms of some of the updates, first of all, we do have our next seminar coming Monday, February 7th. That's coming up pretty fast. You can sign up for it on www.crushingdoubt.org. This is the chance to start to organize your whole system. So if you're new to this and you're just discovering this, a great way to, hi Sylvia, good to see you. A great way to get started is with these seminars. The seminars are 8 sessions. They're 75 minutes long. There is some Q&A in it that's different than this because we can get into really, really specific stuff more. But they are designed to give you the whole idea of the mind-body system and to get a sense of the whole mind-body world and how it's operating. Catherine, good to see you. Hi. And I see Lucy Oden has joined us on Instagram. Good to see you here. So the thing with the seminars is it gives you all the information. I had so much information overload, and I also had not enough information in certain ways. These seminars take all that information, get it very organized, help you understand what you need to know and what you don't, so that you can stop searching all over the place. So again, it begins February 7th. It's Monday through Thursday. It is at 1:45 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Pacific. Eastern. And it is 10:45 a.m. Pacific to 12 p.m. Pacific. Those time frames, those time zones can get me off. But that's Mondays through Thursdays for 2 straight weeks, the week of February 7th and the week of February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. In addition, once that's done, we have these membership groups, and whether you take the seminar or not, you can certainly go to the membership groups. I highly recommend doing the seminars first and then joining the membership groups, but the membership groups give us a chance to go through your moment-to-moment experience. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you here on YouTube. And we've got Sarah Fink has joined us on Instagram. Good to see you, Sarah. Mind Your Matter also has joined on Instagram. Good to see you as well. So I have all these different systems in place, resources in place. If you need help, email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org, or you can email Greg at crushingdoubt.org. Sometimes he gets back to people faster because he's on the technical side of things and helps me with that. But be in contact with us for anything that you need. You can check out things on our website, www.crushingdoubt.org. And one last announcement, which I've been mentioning, is that we are going to be switching platforms. This Q&A is not switching platforms. This Q&A is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Instagram. It's going to be on Facebook. Same as always. But the rest of the Crushing Doubt podcast is going to be moving over to a new platform. This is a group that I'm part of. It's called the Sapphire Network. And it's going to be a really great interface. It's going to be a great way to get on there and get more information in a more streamlined manner. And there will be updated offers associated with that as well. I'm going to have more information on that as we go. We're not quite at that point yet, but I will keep you posted. All right, let's dive in with questions, guys. Go ahead and put in your questions in YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook as needed. But since nobody's asking one yet, we're actually going to get to a preloaded question, which we haven't in weeks. So here we go. Russell has been waiting on this question. Thank you for waiting patiently. So Russell says this. I've been struggling with elbow pain related to doing chin-ups. I've reviewed your video on triggers and how without the presence of blunt force trauma, anything can be a trigger. I've been doing this exercise for years. The only change is the foam padding on the bar has fallen off. So I've been using the Bear Bar, which is just metal and thinner. Barring no other changes and without the presence of blunt force trauma, could this be causing the irritation? All right, please leave this up there because whenever it's a longer thing, I may want to jump back to different parts of this. So Russell, this is 100% a trigger. There's absolutely no way that an exercise you've been doing that whole time would have any change to you, even though you don't have the padding on. The only potential change that could happen, and this would not be a chronic thing at all, is it could make your hands more sore because you don't have padding. That wouldn't be a lasting thing. Could give you maybe more calluses and that sort of thing. But in terms of elbow pain, absolutely not. We have all the evidence that suggests that this would not be the case. You've been doing this for years. So would it really make that much of a difference? What happens is, though, the mind seizes on any opportunity to convince you, something's different. This shows you how relentless doubt is. It's been hanging around for that, funny pun given you're doing chin-ups, but it's been hanging around on that activity with no way to get in there. And suddenly, if you change one thing, then doubt's like, aha, now I can pounce. Now I can get you to wonder, maybe this is going to cause elbow pain. And that is what happened here. So could the padding removal be causing the irritation to your elbow? Absolutely, 100%. No. This is TMS, mind-body experience, 100%. It's acting just like it. And it's a great illustration of what happens with triggers. You start thinking in a different way, and that thinking can change your physiology and get you into a doubt cycle. That's exactly what happened here, Russell. Thank you for bringing this up. It's a great example of it, and I hope people will use it well based on what we just found out. And Russell, you let me know if I answered your question well enough. Okay, Sylvia, she says, would an example of articulating a doubt be something like, oh no, here the pain is this going to be here the rest of the day? Is that a doubt after the initial emotional trigger? Okay, leave that up there. She also had a smiley face with a monocle, kind of studying things. So that has to be noted because I like it. First of all, Sylvia, you're doing great work articulating the doubt in terms of working at it. So in the doubt column, you've got basically 3 tasks. Observe the doubt. Now, when I say observe, I say it not just to note that it's there, but you've got to be very careful to note, am I thinking it's true or am I recognizing it as a doubt? That's observing. Once you're past that point, though, you're trying to get it articulated. That's what Sylvia is doing here. So when she says, oh no, here the pain is this going to be here the rest of the day? That is a more articulated doubt than maybe this isn't a mind-body symptom, or maybe I can't master this. It is more fleshed out. I would say, Sylvia, you want to get that even more articulated. And I hope that's not annoying to say, because I'm not saying you're not doing a good job. You are doing a good job. This is exactly what you need to be doing. It's just I want you to go next level. So I'm going to give you an example. When you say, oh no, here the pain is this going to be here the rest of the day? A good method for articulating your doubt is to ask, why do I think that? So if you are thinking maybe it's going to be here the rest of the day, ask why. Why would it be that you're worried it's going to be here the rest of the day? That could be any number of answers. It could be because once I get worrying, it stays here. That's what I call a level 3 doubt. And it comes from this idea that you yourself can't get better. But see, that's a more articulated doubt. It could also be that you're like, well, this symptom is hard to master. That's a level 2 doubt. This symptom is hard to master. Others would be easier. You could also have, is this going to be here the rest of the day because I think I injured myself? That's a level 1 doubt. So you're going to have to articulate it more. I think you already have it articulated in your mind, but I want it spelled out a little bit more. Let's do some follow-up on that, Sylvia. Let me know if that helps. Okay, Mind Your Matter on Instagram says, I would say the biggest issue for me, the attentional aspect of my symptoms, because I rarely experience physical pain. Thanks, Dan. Okay, thanks for bringing that to my attention. Sorry. Don't mean to make bad puns, but it really is something that people do struggle with, where people sometimes don't actually have that many symptoms or aren't having pain, let's say, but can't stop attending to it. And the fact is, when you've had any kind of chronic issue in the past, it's a bit hard to not get into that kind of wheelhouse of thinking over and over and over, just on the hamster wheel, thinking over and over and over. So let me say a couple things about it, Mind Your Matter, and you can let me know if this is helpful. There are 2 sources of attentional TMS or mind-body symptoms. And what do I mean by that? Attentional means I can't stop attending to it. Even if I know it's mind-body, I can't stop attending to it. There's 2 sources for that. 1, if you are a kind of obsessively minded person in general, it could be that obsessional quality has just gotten attached to the symptoms. And so you're going over and over and over it. There's one solution to that kind of thinking, and there's a different solution to this other kind. So first, let me explain the kinds. The other kind of attentional TMS or mind-body issues comes from the fact that the symptoms make you so afraid that you can't stop thinking about them. So in other words, you're either obsessed with them because of fear or you're obsessed with them because you tend to obsess. You need to distinguish which one is which. So if it is fear-based, you have to articulate the fear. It's similar to what we were saying with Sylvia. Let's get it very specifically articulated. What's the worry? That it won't stop, or that it's going to be too painful, or that it means something. Get it very specific, and you can attack the fear and the doubt directly. If you're having a kind of more obsessive quality and just can't stop thinking about it, tinnitus is a good example of this. Some people call it tinnitus. It's funny that it's a hearing thing, and we don't know how to say the words in the way that sounds right. But that is a great symptom to illustrate. It's not a great symptom. No symptom is great, but that's particularly hard in some ways. But it is a great symptom for illustrating attentional mind-body issues. Especially often it's not fear-based. Sometimes it is, though. It's like, I can't escape it. It's going to drive me crazy. I'm so worried about it. Worry. You would deal with the fear then. If it's more obsessional, which is just, I'm actually totally fine. I'm not that freaked out about it, but I just can't stop attending to it. Then you need something else to attend to. And for me, that brings up a power column solution, which is to go and find what is your purpose so you can really be in it. When you're really in the flow of something, you don't think about other things. Doing this work is part of my flow. I'm super into it, and I love being here doing it, so I don't end up thinking about anything else. And that's really what the power column solution is. So mind your matter. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Doesn't have to be about physical pain at all, that attentional stuff. In fact, a lot of times it isn't. Okay, Karen Isaac says, I'm getting better at not talking to many people about TMS because I can't stand the pushback or the no, mine is a real injury. I find it emotionally painful when people complain about their 25 years of pain. Okay, so Karen, I certainly understand. I've definitely been through that many, many times. In fact, that's part of what I've had to develop in my practice and in my system, is to figure out how I'm going to talk to people about it. And one of the things that I've done is to, first of all, recognize when somebody's not going to be somebody that's really worth talking to about it. I hate to say it that way. Everybody's worth it, but if they're going to act like that, I'm not going to spend my time on it. I do like to, it actually helps me a little bit to be more pushy back. And it kind of piques their interest, especially if I'm non-defensive about it. And I'm just kind of like, hey, you can do whatever you want. I'm living without any chronic issues. So if you want to join me, you just let me know. These kinds of things can really kind of stick with people. And if you get to some amusement about it, that helps. I understand it's hard. And it can be very hard to hear people complain about it when you know the answer and you could help them right then and they're not listening. And so I feel your pain there. Okay, we've got a question coming in or an observation from Facebook. Hold on. Ross, pain-free here for years. Thanks, Dr. Dan. Well, I'm glad that I was helpful to you, Ross. Thank you so much. Thank you for showing me support. I appreciate it. Okay, Catherine Toomer says, Dr. Dan, sometimes when I am feeling plantar fasciitis, I do a quick dance step, which puts pressure on my heel, and I smile just to remind myself that this is TMS, that no damage is being done. Maybe it will help me let it go. Catherine, that's a great example of what Dr. Sarno meant when he said resume normal physical activity. When I first read that, I read it as, well, yeah, you resume normal physical activity because you're fine. What I didn't understand at first is, no, he's saying resume normal physical activity to convince yourself, to show you the proof is in the pudding. You don't have a problem or you wouldn't be able to do this. And that's exactly what you're doing. From my vantage point, just extending it out into the columns way of thinking about things, that's crushing a doubt right there. You are saying, nope, I'm not falling into the fear about this. There's no reason this would be a problem. I already know what I need to know. And that means I can do whatever I need to do. And then you do it. The proof is in the pudding and you're on your way. So thank you for sharing that, Catherine. And I think that's great. I know when you first were coming on these Q&As, you had wondered about plantar fasciitis, and it sounds like you've made really good progress on it. Glad to hear it. Okay, Sylvia's getting back to us with more specific articulation. Good job, Sylvia. Let's see what she says. Is this going to be here the rest of the day because it hurts more than other pains and because that's been the pattern? Once it starts, it sticks around for quite a while. Okay, great job. This was a much more articulated doubt. She has another comment, though, that I want to read. I also think the doubt is just kind of expectation of the pattern repeating, like, well, crap, here we go again, if that makes sense. Yes, it does. But notice, you had a much more specifically articulated doubt. And that is a great weapon against doubt, because now we can go ahead and go after it right where it's talking to us. Otherwise, if it's too general, it can kind of float away or just stay in the cracks. If we get specific, then either we can counter it or it's going to try to prove it to us, and it's going to fail every time because it's wrong. So let's start with yours. I'm going to tell you how I would deal with them, and then we'll go from there. So you're asking, is this going to be here for the rest of the day because it hurts more than other pains? Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Then we're going to get to end because it's been the pattern, right? So the fact that it hurts more than other pains, does that have to mean it's going to stay longer? There's actually no correlation between that. I understand why, from a potentially logical standpoint, you would wonder that, but it's actually not the case. In fact, the more a pain hurts, the more likely it is to be an emotions column event and nothing else. Because the most painful things are the ones that come from the emotions column or the fear that is generated in doubt. Those are the two things that cause the most pain, absolutely. When I had my back spasms, those were caused by fear in the doubt column. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I hadn't invented the system. I hadn't even discovered Sarno. But that fear, anything that's more emotional, is going to lead to more intense pain. So actually, Sylvia, a more painful thing is a sign of something that is more likely to leave quickly. Now, me saying that doesn't make you believe it, but I want to hear your thoughts about it. Because if you do come to believe it, and I'm right about it, and I can explain why and all of that, it's going to make it so that that doubt is completely evaporated. Because the idea that it hurts more will lead to it staying longer. It's actually the opposite of how we see it play out. So I'm curious about that. Now let's get to, because that's been the pattern. Okay? Whatever your pattern has been, it has been based on what you know. It's been based on your mindset. So the question I have is your mindset stuck where it always was? I don't think it is. So actually, what's happening here to me is, Sylvia, you are starting to approach the part where doubt is crumbling so much that you're about to become powerful. And I've been talking a lot about this recently, but this is what happens in my system. Everybody starts to move through doubt and they start to get close to power. And that's when doubt starts really fighting back. Because once you're powerful, doubt is screwed and it knows it. So it's going to try to take you down. That's why it's saying this to you. Well, it's the pattern. You can't get through it because you know how this goes. That's not true. You have new information. Remember the idea of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? Well, actually, you could claim that it's kind of the definition of insanity to do something new and expect the same result. That also doesn't make sense. So remember, you are getting to a place where things are different. Now, you then said, once it starts, it sticks around for quite a while. That is a level 3 doubt, where you were basically saying, I don't believe that I'm going to be able to fight through the doubt. Once it's got a hold on me, I'm going to have trouble with it. Well, that's actually an assumption, Sylvia. It's one that I understand. It's based on how the pattern has been. But at the same time, we have a different pattern that I've seen with you, which is when we challenge doubt, things actually do change. So you have other information. What ends up happening is we kind of think about particular aspects of things instead of the other aspect, and we lose sight of that. So Sylvia, please let me know if that helps. But the idea of like, well, crap, here we go again. Not if you're going to believe differently. You can change, and I can help you change with the right information. Okay, Karen Isaacs said, you talked about headaches, certain pains taking hold. Other day I felt headachy. I did notice it went away as the day went on. That has been rare for me. This was a first, so I like that I have that in my toolbox. Okay, these are big steps. Every time you get something new, this is exactly the opposite of what Sylvia was struggling with and I was trying to help her with, which is when you get something new that's good, it's recognition, oh, things are changing. This can be different. And you're going to start to see, oh, now there's a new pattern. Karen is a good example of this. Karen, you now have a new pattern. And I don't mean just now. You actually have had it for a while. You have a new pattern of discovering new powers, new ways of getting past something, new ways of understanding things. and it just happened again. So Sylvia, you've been doing that too. You just aren't codifying it that way in your mind. You're more thinking, oh, I'm trying to counter what is the actual pattern. So in a way, I would go back to observing the doubt, because what you're doing is you're observing it, but you're thinking it's still true, which isn't seeing it truly as a doubt. I'm not saying that critically. I'm saying it totally supportively. Happens all the time to many, many people, but I will help you continue to expose that doubt. It's in trouble. Okay, Molly Miniatures and more. Good to see you here. I never talk to people about my personal fears or symptoms, only talk here with all of you, LOL. I totally get it, Molly. You know, I go out to the masses and talk to as many people as I can about this, whether they believe it or not. But for a long time, I did not. In fact, it was very important to me in my getting better, and I realized it. I was like, it's a miserable experience talking to these people. They cause me doubts. They get me questioning things. They seem more interested in being really smart about their questions than about my suffering. They would tear down things that were helping me. It was really bad. I can't stress this enough, because it's an important part of your experience as the sufferer, and I want to empathize with it and help you feel that not only am I in your corner about it, but that you will get out of it. The lack of empathy that people have for people who are suffering in this way is staggering. And when some of these people start to develop pain, they routinely come to me and they say, oh my God, is this what it was like? And I'm like, yeah. Okay. So for the people who are not suffering out there, you got to actually put yourself in these people's shoes and imagine what it's like. It is protective to recognize that some of those people you talk to who make it worse, they're actually bringing a lot of aggression. And they're bringing a lot of aggression in part because they're afraid. They almost see us as like lepers. Oh my God, don't infect me with your problem. I don't ever want to have it. So I'm just going to pretend that I could never have it, and I'm going to judge you for it. Now that's the extreme form of it, but there's a lot of that stuff. So protect yourself from the aggression. And I find it is often best to just talk to people who get it. You can kind of make a foray into talking with somebody and see if they can be somebody who's open-minded to it. But as soon as they start to cause trouble for you, you can either let them know that they're causing trouble for you and explain why, and you can go on the offensive, or you can shut it down and be like, you're not safe. You're not safe for this. Now, I'm working on changing the whole narrative, and we all are really. So eventually it's safe for everybody. And we'll keep it up. Okay, Talia says, yes, expectation of it continuing. I have the story. I have pain, tinnitus, sinusitis, fatigue, etc., 24/7. How to change that story? I try to say it's moment by moment, but keep reverting to the old story, because I've not had moments without pain, sinusitis, tinnitus, etc. And she says, relating very much to Sylvia, although so far challenging the pattern hasn't changed it. Okay. So let's leave this up here. I want to think about this for a little bit. Talia, and this is for Sylvia too. But specifically for Talia, because Sylvia has had some changes to it over time. So if you've had it 24/7, makes perfect sense that you wouldn't believe that it's going to change unless you change your actual thinking. And what you're doing there, and I don't blame you for it at all, but you're trying to will yourself to change it. And I want to tell you, it's not your job to do. It's actually my job to convince you that your narrative is actually not correct. And I don't mean that critically. I mean that as good news. Here's how. When I talk about chronic issues, many people know this about things that I say, I don't actually believe that things are chronic. Hi, Scotty Styles. Good to see you on Instagram. I don't believe that anything is chronic unless it is related to a major medical condition or a major blunt force trauma where healing can't happen. If you get your leg amputated, that's not coming back. That's, for good. But nothing else is chronic unless it was some kind of catastrophic injury or some kind of catastrophic medical condition. And I want to be very clear about that. I'm not including all of these garbage diagnoses that are getting thrown around out there. Herniated disc, arthritis, shock the hell out of me that does not cause pain. It doesn't. There are studies that show it all over the place. none of these structural issues that they're talking about are the things that cause pain. So instead of thinking of it as chronic, I want you to think of it and I don't want you to jump to, oh, it can just be broken. You need to actually believe it can be broken. And how do we get there? One of the steps is to recognize that it's not chronic, it's consistently acute. I'm going to say that again. It's not chronic, it's consistently acute. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's always there. That's the consistent part. But acute means actually it's temporary. It just doesn't look temporary because it's consistently there over and over and over and over. So I say it's like renewing a subscription to pain. If you can start to think about it that way, then it makes sense why it hasn't gone away. And then it also makes sense why challenging it in one moment might actually help you. Right now, Talia, you've got too much weight on your shoulders about changing it in a given moment because you're thinking you have to change the whole story. You don't. You have to change one moment. If you change one moment and it starts to change the symptom at all, that's a big thing. That's going to show you. So you start to get shown little by little, but you can't do it if you're viewing it as chronic and either yes or no, do I have the pain? Moment by moment thinking and consistently acute, it makes all the difference. Okay, so Talia said, okay, makes sense. I had undiagnosed for celiac disease for decades and wonder if that caused the symptoms and continued even though I no longer eat gluten. Okay, so I'm going to get to that in a second. But then she says, I love that distinction of consistently acute. It's incredibly important, Talia. Take that and run with it. And soon you will be running if that's ever been a problem for you. So let me jump back to, let me make sure I didn't miss something. Before I get to you, Talia, on the question about celiac, Bob had a comment or question. Fear and doubt, which causes the other? Trying to break it down seems important. Okay, it is important. And actually, this is true for any parts of my system. Every part of the system can cause something else. In other words, the flow can go in either direction. A power column issue can cause doubt. A power column issue can cause emotions. An emotions column issue can cause a power dip. An emotions column issue can cause a dip in doubt. A doubt flare can cause emotional life. A doubt flare can cause a power dip. All of the columns can affect each other, but so can the individual parts. Now, when I say this is not bad news. It makes it sound like everything's going to be complicated and everything affects everything. It's not that complicated, and I'll tell you why. It's all about the timing. It's all about which came first in time. If you really look at your thought process, you'll be able to see it. So, Bob, sometimes fear can lead to doubt. Fear is a form of doubt, of course, but it's the emotional form of doubt, and it tends to be the most powerful of the doubts. So let's say you have a symptom flare and you get really freaked out about it. And then it starts to make you think, maybe Sarno wasn't right. Maybe Dan's not right. Maybe none of these people are right. That's an example of the fear leading to the doubt. It's simply a matter of which came first in time. Then you could go the other direction, where you woke up one morning and you started to think, I don't know about these guys. I hope they have it right, but I'm not totally sure. I haven't gotten better as fast. And doubt starts to kind of trickle up, and then it escalates. And suddenly fear is there. So I hope this is making sense to you, Bob. But basically, the rule of thumb to figure out which leads to which came first in time. And it is important to break it down because you need to know which is the main problem. It's kind of like when I say you've got to identify your main column. You have to identify the main thing in that column. So if the fear is causing the doubt, you want to get to working on that fear because the doubt will go away fast when you realize it's just a response to fear. If the doubt, though, if the fear is causing the doubt, the opposite way, then you want to do it the other way. I think I actually got screwed that up. But in any case, I think you guys know what I mean. If fear is coming first, the doubt will fade very easily because it's not the main issue. If doubt came first, the fear will go away pretty easily once you realize doubt is the main issue. In my system, understanding the central idea that's causing things is part of what makes doubt and fear go down because it's making sense. Bob says, got it. I'm glad we nailed that one, and that was a great question. Very helpful for many people out there, I suspect, and I'm glad it was for you too. Okay, let me see. What did I miss? Hold on one second. Just got to comb through this. Okay, Molly Miniatures and More says, I have trust issues with almost everyone. Don't blame you. It's a rough world out there. but I do have 3 people I can talk to. Otherwise, I just tell everyone I'm great. Listen, 3 people is actually that's a really good number. You know, if you've got, I'd say 2 or more, 3 or more, especially, you're in a pretty good spot. There's many, I feel like I can talk to anybody about it because of my level of certainty, because I don't care if other people think it. I know I'm right. But if you're not totally certain in that way, protect yourself and rely on those people. And Molly, I hope the burning mouth has gone away, but if not, we're going to nail it soon. Just let me know. She says, and thankfully this was a follow-up to that. And thankfully most of the time I'm good, so I'm thankful. Good. All right. However, I am empathetic to people who are suffering. Well, thank you, Molly. Your empathy here and the way that we are in this community, I so appreciate. You guys are good to each other, and that's the way we want it to be here. So keep that up. But I'm glad you're not suffering very often. I'm glad you have people you can trust, Molly, and we will keep at it. Okay, Xylotera has joined us on Instagram. Good to see you. All right, let's see. Talia says, we have to get back to the celiac disease question. So her question was this. I had undiagnosed for celiac disease for decades and wonder if that caused the symptoms and continued even though I no longer eat gluten. Okay, so a couple of things. I just went through this with a man I did some treatment with. We got rid of back pain symptoms and some other stuff, but he apparently has celiac. And we consulted with Dave Clark, one of the leading gastroenterologists in the nation for mind-body work. And Dave, I did an interview with him on Crushing Doubt. He's just a fantastic guy. And we consulted with him. And what we found is he shows very, very, very specific physiological markers for the danger of gluten to his body, actual celiac disease. But this is getting diagnosed sometimes where it's not the case. I'm not saying that's true for you, Talia. I don't know. There's no way I could know that. I'm not a medical doctor, haven't seen you specifically about it, but I think that I think it's something you do want to kind of test out and ask your doctors more about. If there is very, very conclusive evidence of it, then you can assume, okay, that's celiac and I have to avoid gluten. But then there's a doubt that has crawled in here, that it was undiagnosed for decades and you wonder if that caused the symptoms and continued even though you no longer eat gluten. Okay, well, if you do have true celiac disease, if you stop eating gluten, you won't have any problems after that, as far as I understand. We can consult with Dave Clark to make sure. Okay, so Talia says, my celiac disease was diagnosed by blood tests and biopsy. So this is the kind of thing where, yes, remember I say, if you're not sure, go to a medical doctor first. You got to do that. And then Talia says, but symptoms have not resolved, so that is a doubt. Exactly. So this is an example of a true medical condition that led to a symptom that then handed the baton off to doubt, and doubt ran off with it and said, now I can run for the rest of my life with this. Now that you're not eating gluten, Talia, you will not have those symptoms once we master the doubt. I hope that makes sense, but let me know. Okay, Molly says burning mouth is more mild lately. I just ignore it without fear. Good, and I'm sorry I brought it up. I just suddenly realized, you know what? Generally speaking, and I really do apologize about this, Molly. Generally speaking, it's not great for us to bring up a specific symptom with a specific person because, boom, then it's there. Tinnitus is a really important one in that you bring that up and, boom, it can be there. So I tend to hear that and I'm going to move past that fast. So sorry about that, Molly. But I just wanted to check in about it. Okay, jumping back to Sylvia. She says, thanks, Dan. So I obviously had a trigger, then doubt. Now I'm having a fairly high amount of pain right now. So what should I do this moment? If I think I already identified the emotion and the doubt. Okay. First of all, we just identified the doubt even more specifically. So my question to you is, do you still have doubt? If you still have doubt, remember, doubt is always the dominant factor. If it's there, it's dominating. So try to figure out if you're still having doubt. I think you still are. I don't mean that critically, but given the fact that we were just dealing with articulating a doubt, it seems unlikely that you wouldn't have doubt. It's not usually the case that you articulate doubt and you counter it right away and it's just totally gone. That does happen, but it's not typical. So I suspect you still do have doubt. The other place that I want you to look is in that emotions column, because I would guess that if you're having this level of pain, you're having a more specified emotional experience. Remember, I said very severe pain, or the more severe the pain is, the more likely it is to have an emotional correlate. Well, that means you haven't gotten to the specifics about it in all likelihood. So if you need help with that, we can even do that here for a little bit if you want. You could kind of bring up an emotions idea, and I can give you a sense of how you would get more specific. Now, of course, I won't know the specifics for you, although I could help you figure that out. But, and we can do that elsewhere as well. But if you want me to just kind of give you an idea of it, I certainly can do that. So two places to look. Never, doubt is so tricky this way. It wants you to think, oh, you've already looked enough. Yep, you did it. Usually that's not the case. I don't mean that critically. I mean it encouragingly. We usually do not have the full understanding of it if we still have a symptom. Go back to the columns and work at it. Okay, I hope that's helpful, Sylvia. Let me know. Okay, Molly says, I do not have the not mentioned symptom now. LOL. Yes, the symptom that who shall not be named. It's like Voldemort. Okay, let's see. Talia says, actually, food intolerances for other foods got worse after the diagnosis. Aha. Haha, I love that analogy of handing off the baton to doubt and running off with it. It's really what it does. So let's make this observation. Talia said, actually, food intolerances for other foods got worse after the diagnosis. That's not surprising to me. This is the kind of thing that happens all the time. When you have a symptom, doubt has a tendency to want to just spread out. It's like somebody at the beach who's just taking up too much space. They keep rolling around and moving into different areas. That's what doubt is like. So anytime you have any kind of symptom, even if it's purely physical, you're going to need to look out for that as like a new site for doubt. It's almost like doubt has landed on a new planet. I'm really mixing my metaphors here, and it plants its flag in there and says, this territory is mine now. And I'm going to go explore over here and I'm going to plant another flag, and that territory is mine now. We're in a battle with doubt over territory. And every time we take out a doubt, we regain territory. And you can sometimes take an existing pain site and turn it around by recognizing it's all doubt. And as soon as you have no doubt, that pain site is not as available for doubt. So keep working on the territory. Take territory from doubt and don't let it take it back from you. And don't let it gain new territory like Talia was saying with food intolerances getting worse after the diagnosis. Okay, Sylvia's got some follow-up. Okay, so yes, there probably is still some doubt because I'm like, yeah, this pain is not going anywhere anytime soon. That's definitely doubt. If you had no doubt, you wouldn't be thinking that. It's stuck and I can't see it budging tonight. Okay, so there's definitely doubt there. Remember my rule of thumb? Ask yourself, all right, then why not? Why won't it budge tonight? It seems to me that you've got a system, your own system, where you think, if it's given enough time, it'll go away. But I'm not going to be able to make it go away right now. Oh, then Sylvia said, then I think the doubt probably ran off. And now I just feel like, well, it's here. There's nothing I can do. Just have to wait it out. Yeah, it's just like I said, Sylvia, though. That is doubt trying to get you to accept terms of a bad deal. It's saying, okay, I'll leave you alone later, but I'm going to keep this territory of now. I don't want you to challenge now because then you'll become even stronger and I'll become even weaker and I'll have less of a role to play and less ground to stand on. So you got to keep going with that. Okay, Talia says, I love all these metaphors and doubt planting flags on a new planet. And Molly Miniature says, I like the metaphors too. The beach one was great. Okay, well, I'm a metaphor guy, so that's just going to keep on coming. But I'm glad that it's helping. And I do think they were both apt. I tend to be pretty good with my metaphors. All right. Sylvia then says, we were talking about doubt. She says in relation to emotion. And then as for the emotion, this started today getting ready to teach the first day of my classes, and I couldn't log into my computer. So that was stressful and made me fearful about classes and printing. Okay. This is so rich for a symptom. First of all, first day of classes. one of the things I look for is there a plausible reason that a new symptom would be here? The first day of classes is one, for sure. It would naturally bring up some anxiety. It could bring up all kinds of feelings. You could feel like, are they going to respect me? Is this going to be hard? What if I just feel like I don't want to do it? I mean, it could go on and on and on. So you got to start thinking about the broad spectrum of things that are there. But then there's this, I couldn't log into my computer. My question to you would be, what did you actually feel at that moment? I know you said stressful. I know it made you fearful, but I want to get even more specific. Why stressful? As an example, I'm not saying this is the case, Sylvia, but I'm just going to run this through as an example for you and everybody. For some people, it could be stressful because they would say, they're going to figure out, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a fraud or something like that. And boom, they're on their way to symptoms and worry. For others, it could be, this thing is malfunctioning. It's supposed to help me. Nobody's here to help me. No one's ever here to help. Did you hear how those are two totally different paths? Totally plausible that somebody could have. And the question is, which one, not just of the two, but of many others, did you go down? So get more specific. What was the stress? What was at stake? And when you ask these questions, why? And what was happening? And how did it make me feel in a more specific way? You get much more specific answers, and then you get more specific results. So if you do that, the reason this symptom is lingering is not because there is this pattern or because you're always just going to have to wait for it to go away and it's here for now. It is because you have not discovered the specific emotion. I can guarantee you 100% that is why. So let's keep looking at that. Okay, Molly says, I had a lot more symptoms when I was a teacher, and then I was a lot younger. For me, teaching was extremely stressful for many reasons. Well, I taught for 2 years, and it was the hardest job I ever did. I did Teach for America. I was straight out of college. Seriously, it was the hardest job I ever did. I cannot believe how they pay teachers, given how hard it is and how important it is. It's a little bit demoralizing about our stances in society, but we're going to have to work on that. But I think the point that Molly's making, in addition to being supportive of teachers and recognizing that's what happened for her, is that, well, you kind of said this, you were kind of hinting at this anyway. Your symptoms were up when you were having a harder time. You were a lot younger too, so it was probably more stressful. And if we can think about what's at stake, that's going to be the key. Now, Sylvia says, I think it was like, am I going to look like a mess in front of these students because I don't have my syllabus printed? I think it's my old fear of how people will perceive me. Bingo. Now you're getting more specific. Now, Sylvia, get even more specific about it. If they did think that, what would it mean? Who would they be agreeing with from your past? How would it leave you feeling? Would you feel like you need to prove yourself that it's different? You can hear how I'm talking about the specifics and going deeper and deeper and deeper, but I don't mean deeper and deeper like you've got to go to therapy for a long time. I just mean keep asking the questions, but why? Why was that a big deal? Why? Keep going at it. Okay, last question for tonight. Rhonda Galone says, in May, I tried a biologic for my arthritis. Did 2 injections. Doctor told me it could possibly activate my colitis. I went into the situation with fear. Bam. Now I have been in a colitis flare since May. Oh, wow. Rhonda, first of all, I'm sorry about that because that's a long time to be in that flare. The good thing is this is consistently acute. It is not chronic. That actually means we can break this tonight. We can break it now. That doesn't mean we're going to necessarily, but we could if we start to challenge it. You had a strong trigger. This doctor didn't do you any favors by giving that trigger. But, in addition, if he were really following the medical research, he would know arthritis doesn't cause pain. So this is unfortunate, and it is really upsetting that you've been stuck with it for so long. But the good news is we can get rid of this now. So I suggest we start really working on that. This is a doubt. I can't get rid of this. It's going to be too hard. I don't know. We got to get this data articulated, Rhonda. There's something very specific that's telling you that this is going to take a long time to get past or that sort of thing. So let's work at that. Now, Molly Miniatures was asking Sylvia, is this college or high school? Sylvia, I'm going to have to let you answer that because I don't know. But whatever it is, if the stakes are high, you're more likely to have symptoms. Okay, guys, these are great questions as always. It's a huge part of how I've developed my system is through all of your questions and, of course, my own as well. So I really appreciate it because you're doing a service when you ask the questions. It's helpful for you. Sylvia says it was college, not high school. You're welcome, Rhonda. Glad that was, or at least I hope it was helpful, and we'll continue to work and get it to be helpful. You're welcome, Molly. Thanks, guys. So keep up the good work. Your questions really help. And, they're a huge part of how I have gotten to where I've gotten with these ideas, and they're going into the book. Can't wait to share that with you. I'm continuing to work on the pre-edit. I finished another chapter this weekend, hoping to get it out to you in April, and we'll keep it up. Bob says, thank you, Dan, for every moment to moment with this system you share. My pleasure, Bob. And if you want to come to the groups and work on those moments, please do. You can email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org. You can also email Greg because he can get you set up directly with that, greg@crushingdoubt.org. But they are available on the website as well, www.crushingdoubt.org. The seminars are also available starting February 7th. It's a great place to either start or solidify what you've already done. And Sylvia says thanks as well. Thank you for saying thank you. Appreciate it. But the seminars are a great place to get things solidified, even if you don't want to start there. I have all of these different resources, and we will keep it up. I'll get you updated on how the new setup is going to be in terms of the podcast. But again, the Q&A is staying right where it is, so nothing needs to change there. Thank you again, everybody. I look forward to seeing you same time next week. Keep up the good work. Let me know if you need any help. I'm here. Okay, bye-bye.